What's up, guys? Dylan Johnson from Soccer Mag here, and welcome back to another episode of Mixing with the DJs. I'm joined by my fellow DJ, Dylan Jack, and today we are doing a review of Matchweek 9 of the Premier League. And it was a pretty interesting week. Quite a lot of the scorelines we thought would happen, not scorelines, but results, kind of came through. One or two surprises chucked in there, mostly just Spurs, but not really that surprising.
No, Spurs are being Spursy.
Yeah. But I think it was a good weekend, I guess, for the competitiveness of the Premier League.
Yeah,
Quite a few positions were dropped or gained. I think the overall table is a lot tighter now, especially at both ends. So, yeah, it was an interesting week. Starting off with Leicester, Nottingham Forest, pretty much exactly what we thought would happen.
Yeah.
Chris Wood in great form. I think he's up to
spectacular.
7 or something goals now in the league.
Yeah.
Would not have expected that.
Yeah. I mean, how crazy is actually the goal scorers list at the moment for the Premier League? It's like a throwback to 2000s or no. It's like you've got, of course, you've got Erling Haaland up there, but then below that you've got like Danny Welbeck and Mbeumo and Chris Wood, and it's just very weird.
Because I think, an example being a player like Ollie Watkins hasn't really hit the ground running this season at all.
No.
And I think Salah as well hasn't really, he's been getting consistent numbers but more assists than actual goals. So the Golden Boot's going to be interesting this season because Haaland also seems to be even though he's got 11 goals already, I don't think he's played well this season really. Besides, even in his hat-trick games, I don't think he's really, you can say Haaland's been in amazing form.
No.
So, yeah, Leicester, Nottingham Forest, good win for Nottingham Forest.
Very straightforward.
Yeah, I think they actually are a really surprising team this season. I think they're up to 7th. 2 points behind 4th place, which is pretty crazy.
I wouldn't have predicted that at the beginning of the season. No, it's been a brilliant season for them. Yeah, especially because I think they have a couple of injuries in there. So, but yeah, this was what we expected. A 3-1 win, comfortable, easy for them. Yeah.
After that, we have Aston Villa versus Bournemouth, which we said if there was going to be a win, we could see it being Villa, but they tend to play very poorly after European weeks. And Bournemouth seem to be in great form. They seem to be the team that no one wants to play at the moment.
Yeah.
Evan Nielsen, 96th minute, equaliser. Again, though, Villa seems to be yo-yoing a bit.
Yeah.
And understandably, they are adjusting to the demands of more midweek games.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems that the players that they relied on for goals last season are not stepping up.
No. You just mentioned Watkins. He's not really stepped up as he did, or at least in the league. He's not really stepped up and putting up the numbers that he did last season. We've seen more sort of John Duran coming off the bench and saving Villa a few times.
Or goals from players like Rodgers or other players that are coming in to chip in goals.
Yes,
but Ollie Watkins doesn't look like he's going to be replicating the form of last season.
No, he doesn't.
After that, Brentford involved in another high-scoring game, 4-3 against Ipswich.
Yeah.
And, Brentford's attackers at the moment must be feeling we're going to have to score 4 a game if we want to get any points out of this.
Yeah, and Mbeumo, he's having the season of his career at the moment. He
is doing really well. And I think this is probably his last season at Brentford, realistically.
Yeah, I think so.
At the end of the season, he's done enough. He's the right age that he will probably be sold to a bigger club without disrespecting Brentford. Ipswich putting in another good performance, though. And I think consistently throughout the season of the promoted teams, they have been much better, at least scoring goals. And even they conceded 4 here, it wasn't really. They got the red card and that changed the game a bit for them.
Yeah.
So I think they could still do well.
I think they can survive. I think they've just got to stick with Kieran McKenna. There might come a time where there'll be a bit of it, even though he's the guy who's like got them all the way over here. He's the guy who's written the story basically. Two times back-to-back promotions. They've just got to stick with him, because it might be a little bit of pressure to go a different direction if the results don't happen. But I think they will. I think they're playing good football, and if they just stick with them, the results will come, I think.
And I think also that Ipswich are probably in a nicer position in that, the expectations on them are way less than Leicester, who are expecting to stay up. Southampton as well. They've been in the Premier League. Both these teams over the past decade have been in the Premier League for a while. So they're actually in a nice position where they're scoring goals. They might not be getting as many points as they probably want to, but the teams around them that they're competing with aren't getting points either. So they're not really at much risk.
Yes.
After that, we have Brighton versus Wolves, and another good performance by Wolves, I think.
Yes, I think.
You know, Brighton facing Brighton away from home is
very tough.
It's probably one of the toughest fixtures in the Premier League.
Yes.
And now I was looking at their fixtures. They've played Newcastle, Brighton, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea. That's just their first 9 games.
Yeah.
And even though they still only have, I think they have 2 points now, no one expects them to win those games.
No,
so
not at all.
Going into the next 10 or so games, maybe halfway into the season,
the
way they're playing, they should
the results should start picking up now for Wolves. But also, how crazy was the finish to that game? I mean, you have Brighton getting the ball 4-on-1 and misplacing the pass, and then Wolves
hoofing it up, bang.
Wolves get it back, recycle it, go upfield, bang, equalizer. That was just absolutely. If I was the manager, that is a coach killer right there.
Then we have Man City versus Southampton. Got the 3 points, top of the table again, but kind of consistently now. I would say throughout the season, Man City underwhelming in front of goal, and
definitely.
Southampton at home, we were expecting a 3-0, 4-0 battering. And I think Man City's attack made Southampton look better at defending, because they just, again, feels like it's almost stale, or they're trying the same things, and if Haaland doesn't get on the end of it, nothing happens.
And defenders are beginning to double mark Haaland because they know how City are going to deliver the ball into the box. They know what the wingers are going to do and the midfielders are going to do. Especially now with City without Rodri and De Bruyne, I think that's a massive blow to their attack.
And I think that Pep is so worried about their threats of being, countered without Rodri there, without someone like Kyle Walker, that it feels, I don't know, almost like, worried.
Keeping it safe.
Containing Southampton in their box, but then a major threat of Haaland, which is his running in behind, getting one-on-one with the keeper, is lost. It just feels like he's sitting in the box and he's a target man now. And he can do it.
But that's never really been his natural game.
So he can do it, and he can do it better than most strikers, but it's just way easier to defend Haaland when, like you said, you double, triple man him in the box and just wait for the ball in.
Exactly.
Then we have Everton versus Fulham. Another good result for Everton. They are, huge. They are 9 points now. They've really, I think we've said it consistently, they've solidified now, and they're getting good points. They're scoring goals. Their defense looks a lot better. Fulham, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a bad point for Fulham.
It's also, I think both teams would have taken this if you had given it to them. Obviously, Everton would have tried for the win, but that's 5 points now from their last 3 for Everton, so that's huge for
considering
them.
I think they had 0 after 4 or something like that. So, another good or solid results. On Sunday, we had Chelsea versus Newcastle, and good bounce back for Chelsea after their loss against Liverpool. Newcastle, again, I don't know if they're playing badly, they're just not getting results.
They're just not finishing their chance. They create a couple of chances, but they're not really finishing it off, which we'll discuss with another team that's doing that as well soon.
I think the biggest one was Isak. We said it off camera. Isak should have squared it. Takes a touch inside. It's one of those chances where, come on, you have to do better. I know he scored, but Newcastle are an interesting spot. I know they've got a couple injuries as well, but I don't know. I'm not sure what their next games are. We'll chat about that later in the week. But I don't know. I've seen lots of murmurs online that Eddie Howe maybe, there's a lot of frustration.
I wouldn't be surprised because there is this pressure of this whole Saudi project and the investment and everything. I'm actually surprised it's taken this long. I think the new investors have been remarkably patient, considering how much pressure how much hype there was when the takeover happened and everyone was talking about Newcastle.
Was literally bang, instantly.
It was. And now it's I think it's plateaued a little bit for Newcastle. They're still good. They're still a good side and can hurt you.
But the competition in that area now is so intense, especially with Villa jumping up the way they've had. Obviously, Brighton have been there now for a couple of years. It's so easy in the Premier League to go from 4th to 8th or 9th, and you don't even have to regress. The other teams just get slightly better, and it's like Villa. I don't think Newcastle have really regressed massively since they finished 4th. It's just that the other teams around them have gotten way better.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace versus Spurs. What a game.
Yeah.
This game kind of sums up Spurs' season so
It
far.
does,
I
yeah.
mean, hammer
United 3-0, and then you go and lose to Brighton, and then you hammer again. You hammer West Ham by 3 goals, and then you go and lose to Palace,
who hadn't won a game. Have looked terrible.
Yes,
Spurs have kind of now taken Matete, turned the season around properly. Now he's going to go on like a 10-game scoring streak. But it's so strange because one week you can watch Spurs and be like, their forwards are amazing.
Yes.
Brendan Johnson's in great form. Kulusevski's in great form. Their defense looks so good.
Yeah.
And then you have a game like this where
just nothing happens for them.
It just feels like they could have another 90 minutes and they wouldn't have scored.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what's happening there with Spurs. I think if we look at the table, they've dropped to 8th now. Yeah. And even though it's still tight, compared to this time last season, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that their key players like Son, James Maddison, really haven't stepped up at all this season. I mean, Maddison in particular just doesn't, I don't know what's changed, but he just doesn't look like he's getting in the same positions.
No.
Or, I don't know. Yeah. It's an interesting spot that they're in right now.
Yeah, it is. Then
we have your game of the weekend, West Ham versus Man United.
I'm going in here right now.
Let us know what your thoughts are on that game.
No, I mean, oh my word. Yeah, where to start? I mean, it was... West Ham were appalling. At least in that first half, that was one of the worst performances we've seen from a Premier League team. And United had chance after chance after chance after chance, and they couldn't put the ball in the net. It was astonishing, actually. Garnacho had a couple coming off the post.
I think you guys hit the
Bruno
post
had
3 or 4 times.
Bruno had one going over the bar, I think, or a header that went over the bar. That was a bit of a more tricky one because he's not a tall guy, Bruno's not known for his heading ability. And then I think Rasmus Højlund had one where he probably should have chipped the keeper. And then, of course, you had Diogo Dalot, who was put through, takes a lovely touch pass. Yeah. And this is what the thing with Dalot is, and I'll discuss it a bit more in depth now, but this is the thing with Dalot is he's a great player when it comes to progressing the ball, but in the final third, he's not great.
He didn't even just sky it. It wasn't like over the crossbar. It was wide right.
Right. It was. He hit it in the worst way. Yeah. You could have asked a player to hit it right over the bar. And then West Ham to give credit to them, Lopetegui makes 3 changes very quickly after half time, and that pays off for them. They start working their way into the game. They start getting shots on. United start getting rattled. As we've seen, and this has been a consistent pattern for United. The opposition makes changes. We saw it at, this was a game that sort of followed a similar pattern, although a bit more exaggerated, as the trip to Brighton. Brighton also made changes, started putting pressure, and eventually forced United to concede. Same thing here. West Ham made changes at half-time, got the goal, and United looked rattled. Then, of course, I think the response to going behind was good. Nicely composed, get the goal through Casemiro. Then I thought, okay, it's actually on here because there's still 7 minutes plus extra time, and there would have been a Butler, as we saw, there was a heck of a lot of extra time added on. Obviously for the
Wasn't it like
VAR.
plus 12 or
yes,
something?
it was plus 12. Obviously part of that was the VAR. And that whole incident was just an absolute disaster. Michael Oliver, my word. I don't, everything that's been said has been said, but it was just one of the worst penalty calls I think I've seen this season. It doesn't even match what, as Ten Hag rightly said after the game, it doesn't match the remit that referees and the clubs were told that, listen, there's going to be a high threshold of interference from the VAR. It has to be a clear and obvious error from the referee for
and
VAR
to
intervene.
Also said that there's a higher threshold for contact.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, play went on all the way through to United having a shot at the other end. And then Mike Oliver had to show the referee maybe 12 or 13 replays of the same angle again and again. It almost felt like a throwback to when
VAR got introduced.
Yes, got first, yeah. And we were told that wasn't going to happen this season, but anyway, it is what it is. And they take the penalty, and that's game, set, and match, because then West Ham park the bus. They go all 11 men behind the ball, and United were never going to score after that. And it's weird because I've seen people saying that and I can understand it somewhat, that this game isn't on Ten Hag.
There were enough chances created that
and which is
you got to back
fair,
your forwards.
Which is fair, but I think the overall pattern and the way he sets United up means that this has to somewhat, the structure, means that this has to somewhat be on Ten Hag's, because when you look at the guys that are taking the shots, it's not Marcus Rashford. It's not Rasmus Højlund, who he paid 70-something million for. It's not the best finishers. Bruno has, I think, had the most shots for a United player, but I think that a lot of those were came from outside the box. We're not getting Bruno in the middle of the box. We're not getting Marcus Rashford into his best position to score. Most of the shots are going to guys like Garnacho, who's not a high-level finisher. His USP is probably his pace and his ability to beat a man and run in behind the defense to create opportunities. That's probably his best attribute. He's not really evolved to be a high-level finisher yet. Dalot is, he's a right back who's good at facilitating play through the midfield, but he
shouldn't be one-on-one with the
keeper. He shouldn't be the guy who's going making that run, one. It should be Rashford who's doing that. It frustrates me so much how Erik ten Hag is using Marcus Rashford, and I see people saying, Rashford's awful, they must sell him, he doesn't care. This is a guy who's putting in yards at right back to allow Dalot. That's clearly the plan, because he's sitting either inverted into midfield or he's sitting at right back to defending, so that Dalot can go forward and make those sort of runs in behind the defense. It should be Rashford doing that. Rashford, in fact, should be used as a left forward. That's where he's played his best. And I've said this before, and that's how Erik ten Hag has used Rashford has contributed to some of the issues with his form, because he's gone from being used as a very wide winger hugging the touchline to almost like a number 10. Sometimes he's used as a number 9, and he's very rarely is he actually used in his best position, which is a left-sided sort of forward with an overlapping left back to take a defender away. That's where he's produced. When he's played like that with Luke Shaw, obviously Shaw's been injured for forever, but when he's played like that, that's where he's played his best football for United. And he just hasn't been used like that, and that's contributed to the issues with his form. When he's being used as sort of to cover so that Dalot can get forward, why has Ten Hag made Diogo Dalot, of all people, the focal point of United's attack? That's why I say this comes down, because it's a pattern. We've seen it time and time and time again. It's the same things happening. It's a second half collapse. And it's not working at the moment. That's why it comes down to, even though, yes, United should have been 2 or 3 goals up, and if United do take those opportunities,
but they probably still would have conceded 2
West
goals
Ham
anyway.
Probably might not work their way back in as they do, because they might crumble from there, and we might see. But again, United haven't scored 3 plus. I don't think United have won a game by 3-4 goals under Erik ten Hag.
I think it's only 8 or 9 goals in the league this season.
They've scored 8 goals in the league. And it's just, the 11
minus
points.
3 goal differences. Also,
and 11 points is United's second lowest tally in the league's history after 9 games.
They're already 12 points off Man City after 9 games.
And when they were relegated, here's a factoid for you. When United were relegated back in 1973-74, the last time United were relegated from the top division of England, they won 3 out of 9 games and scored 8 scored 8 goals. It's exactly the same this season.
So you're telling me there's hope?
There is hope for United to go on and win the championship, which Erik ten Hag will probably say, yeah, we got a trophy. Look at my shiny trophy. But yeah, it's just that's sort of why I'm saying that even though United's forwards should have finished and should have done better, Ten Hag has almost made the stick to beat himself with, because he's not getting how many good chances we say that United's team doesn't have goals in them. I kind of somewhat agree, somewhat disagree, because how many of these chances is Rasmus Højlund getting? How many of these chances is Marcus Rashford getting? And how many are going to Dalot? How many are going to Eriksen? How many are going to Casemiro? How many are going to guys who aren't generally going to get those goals? United need to do better to get their stronger finishers in positions to score goals. Then they'll come. But at the moment, no matter who United play in the middle, the plan doesn't seem to make that number 9 the focal point of their attack. They don't see a lot of the ball. They're often isolated. The wingers and the midfielders aren't looking for that striker. They're looking to kick the ball along to Diogo bloody Dalot to go in and either hold the ball up or get in behind. And that's why it's on Ten Hag. He's had time to sort this. He's had time to analyze it. And that's why this is all sort of leading down. Eventually, it's going to lead down to Erik ten Hag getting sacked. This was the Al Sakiko, as we called it before. And the result is the result. We've seen it now. Lopetegui made the tactical changes that got him the result. And Ten Hag, you know, I don't really disagree with some of the changes that he made. I thought he could have got Diallo on a lot sooner, and I would have replaced Garnacho. I don't understand why he's asking Rashford to do yards at right back, and then you take him off after 60 minutes, whereas Garnacho's not really, he's tired. Garnacho's now, he's probably one of the most used players, picked up the most minutes after Dallo in terms of outfield players, and you're not subbing him to bring on Amad Diallo. And also, I don't know how Amad Diallo hasn't got more minutes.
Yeah, that was one thing it seems like Diallo, I don't think he's done something, but what has happened since the first couple games of the season?
He was
playing so well, and now he just can't get back in the team.
For a manager that somehow emphasizes possession-based football, which is what we were told, he was going to emphasize that was what Ten Hag's Ajax team was, sort of total football, possession-based football, very quick transitions. Diallo is perfect for that, whether it's as a number 10, whether it's as a right wing. Diallo says himself that his best position is as a number 10, but he's done very well on the right wing. Yet Ten Hag is going to play Mazraoui, as we saw in Europe, going to play Mazraoui as a number 10 before he even considers Diallo, you know. So it's things like that Ten Hag's just not helping himself. Yeah. He can help himself
He's
a little bit more.
He's helping everyone else but
exactly.
himself.
Every team is looking at United and saying, oh, well, yeah, we can pick up some points. Because probably not going to concede. We might concede one goal, but, you know, then it's a draw. But in terms of the upcoming fixtures, United play Leicester twice, once in the EFL Cup. They have a good home run at least, but I don't know. It's just, before the international break, I think we have 4 consecutive home games, one of those in the EFL Cup, one against Leicester in the EFL Cup, one in the league, one against Chelsea, and then we've got a European game against PAOK. But I just don't see Ten Hag picking up points because he's just not setting up the team to get those results. So,
and I think we mentioned it earlier like in the season, that if it gets to December, and United are, at this point, 7 points off top 4. The teams that are competing for that, Brighton, Chelsea, Villa, they're not going to be dropping points. They're not going to be dropping points unless, I know Chelsea have to play Arsenal, and Villa have to play Liverpool at some point, but they could be more than 10 points ahead of United come the next international break. And that, the Premier League's too competitive to make that up.
Exactly.
Even though there'll still be 20-something games to play, those 3 teams are not going to be losing 5, 6, 7, 8 games this season. If United are going to be making up for it at those points. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and with the financial situation at the club as it is right now, with the debt left over from United have to make some sort of European position. Otherwise, there's going to be a huge load of pay cuts and players are going to have to be offloaded, you know, because then you get into trouble with financial fair play. So it's crucial that United at least finish 8th.
Yeah. And which is actually crazy to say.
Yeah, that United are sitting here. A United fan is sitting here stressing about whether the club's going to finish. So the decision has to be made, you know. Again, it's like I said before the last international break, Ineos have to take a stand here. Either they're going to back this guy and they're going to say, listen, we committed to this project, calm yourselves down, we're not going to be sacking this guy, we're going to give him all the tools possible and we're committed to seeing this. Or they need to say, listen, by the time the next international break comes, they need to make a decision and cut him. I think they need to cut him. I don't see this changing. And I think, you know, for those that say, but Fergie had, you know, had 2 very poor or 3 struggling seasons before, you know, he really got things going. You know, not every manager is going to be Fergie, unfortunately, and it's regular for teams like Bayern and Barca and Madrid. They cycle through managers until they get the right guy. Ten Hag might just not be the right guy. Maybe he's the guy that does the clear out. Maybe he's the Ron Atkinson before Fergie comes in. You know, he's the guy that does a little bit of a clear out. He's the guy that wins a couple of trophies, and then the next guy comes in.
But I think also the thing with football's different now in that you slip for 3 years, you can
exactly.
It's so difficult to come back.
Yeah.
And now also with the fact that the problems Ten Hag's had are still there, and they're getting worse. There's no like fundamental area we can say United have improved. Okay, we can see progress.
Yeah.
It feels like we said, the problems are still the same.
Yes.
The same results are happening. Same players, or not even the same players. He's brought in new players that are meant to suit the system, that have suited the system, and it's still not working.
Yeah.
So,
and you look at another point. You look at how Aston Villa changed between. I mean, everyone was saying Steven Gerrard to Emery. Everyone was saying when Steven Gerrard was in charge, no, this Aston Villa side, it's awful. It's going to get relegated. There's no one worthwhile
within
there.
6 months.
Within 6 months, they in Europe for the first time in forever. They're challenging consistently for the top 4. So yeah, I mean, maybe this is that kind of a situation. But yeah. Okay. The rant over.
Now that you've got that off your chest. The final game of the weekend, another great one for the title race.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was
Arsenal versus Liverpool 2-2. And I think we also need to get off a rant of the Arsenal crisis of the injuries. We did some research, and Arsenal do have injuries, but so does every single other Premier League team.
Yeah.
And they are ranked about 10th when it comes to injuries. Man City, Man United, I think Newcastle, Wolves,
decimated.
They all have way worse numbers. I think right now, after Gabriel, Arsenal, I think, have 5 injuries now.
Yeah. And
there's at least 6 or 7 clubs that have got more than that, 6, 7, 8. I think United have 9 or 10 at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
And I get it, missing Saliba is terrible, but at the end of the day, you got a red card. That there's not really complaints about that. Yeah. Losing Gabriel is massive, but Saka played. I know Timber went off injured, but everyone has injuries, and I don't think it's a unique Arsenal crisis. The fact, I mean, last season, we said it before, they were extremely lucky with injuries compared to everyone around them, and that's just a part of the game. And if you can't compete by missing 3 or 4 key players, unfortunately, that's just squad planning. In the modern day, that's squad planning that's cost you. Because Kevin De Bruyne hasn't played a minute.
No.
Kyle Walker's been injured. Rodri's out for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. The fact that City are, doing as well as they are, even though they're not playing well, they're getting it done. And Pep Guardiola isn't complaining about an injury crisis.
No.
So just to get that off my chest, because it does frustrate me a little bit. But overall in the game, like I said, I think the last week, I'll take the points.
Yes.
Before kickoff, I'll take the points. And I think after watching that game, I'm happy with the points.
Yeah, especially Arsenal, after that first half.
First half, I was like, this is not looking good. Liverpool didn't look in it at all. No. Robertson was... it was genuinely... It was actually almost sad to watch how Saka was at will, just breaking this guy.
Yeah.
The goal was... He was humiliated. He humiliated Robertson there. And I think even in the game, Robertson just didn't have that energy that we've seen from him. I think going forward, he didn't really offer anything. That space was always open. He always looked vulnerable. Maybe you can say he didn't get enough help from McAllister or Diaz, but still, I think, Saka's probably in form. Him and Salah are the best 2 right wingers in the Premier League.
Yes.
Anyone's going to struggle against them, but just the way he did... I think really didn't help. It just set the tone for Arsenal to, I think, attack the game in the first half.
Yes.
Then I think near the end, Liverpool settled a bit. Half time.
Yeah.
Second half, Liverpool were much better. But still, I think from a Liverpool fan point of view, I wasn't expecting us to go there and win 3-0. No. There were moments though where I was genuinely worried, and I don't think Liverpool played well. Yeah. And I think Arsenal probably deserved the 3 points more than Liverpool, just until I guess they parked the bus and like 20 or minutes to go which was strange. I thought that they take the lead 2-1, and I know they lost Gabriel, but that was with I think there was 15 minutes left of the clock or something like that. You are getting at Liverpool's defense. There's there was so much space. Konate played so well for covering Trent, but there was so much space in Liverpool's defense, I think. And I feel like what we've spoken about Arteta with being too cautious of shutting up shop.
Yes.
If Arsenal approached that last 15 minutes the way they did in the first half, Liverpool were there for the taking. I genuinely think they were.
Interesting.
And that was, I think that was just one thing I viewed on it, and I spoke to some of my friends about it, and they're like, you're so negative, you whatever, you don't act. But I think that Arsenal could have gotten 3 points there, and Liverpool, they allowed Liverpool back into the game. I think by the way, they started riling Liverpool up by going down and slowing down the clock and all these things that it's not really necessary.
Yes.
I don't know. So I don't know what your thoughts were. That was just my great point for Liverpool.
You've summed it up really well. It's similar thoughts to me. I mean, I thought Liverpool were in trouble. I thought, especially with Arsenal getting that goal just before half-time by a toenail's length. But yeah, I thought when Arsenal went 2-1 up and going to I thought, sure, but here we go. You've given Arsenal something to hold on to. And I can understand what Arteta was trying to do in the second half when you, especially after you lose Gabriel, you sort of want to hold, go sort of defend, and then invite Liverpool forward and maybe hit them on the counter. But I don't think they counterattacked all that well in the second half. I thought they lost their structure there in terms of their counterattacking. Because as you say, Liverpool's defence was there, especially, Liverpool would have got more and more desperate. But what I think, I was really impressed with the way Liverpool actually responded, and whether it was Arsenal just sitting back. I was actually impressed. Maybe you weren't as much, but I was actually impressed.
I think the subs made a massive difference. I think McAllister didn't have a great day.
No, he didn't.
I think Luis Diaz showed moments.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Thomas Partey at right back shouldn't be getting the better of Luis Diaz.
No, he shouldn't.
And I think Salah was quiet for a long period.
Yeah.
But he steps up when he has to.
Yeah.
I think Darwin Nunez also similar. It feels like similar to United, where the number 9's not getting any service, and his work off the ball is what's being pushed.
Yeah.
I mean, Nunez getting into space, he got the assist, but I think since Jota's been injured, it feels like Nunez gets the ball 6-7 times in a game, and it's never in a goal scoring position. It's running wide into the channels to put the ball across or holding the ball up. I don't know if that's maybe what Slot wants, but it's I think at the end of the day, maybe I do come across too negative. I am happy with the points. Liverpool
honestly,
have had a great
you've got to
the
take the
season.
point from this, and it's two big results
I mean, I think it's Brighton twice in a row now.
Yes.
So it's been a good start to the terrible run.
Yes.
So can't really complain. But I just felt that I would have liked Liverpool to play a bit better for the whole 90 minutes. They went through good periods. They went through bad periods where I think that they were lucky at times.
Yes.
I think the goal that was disallowed was very soft. Blatantly, biasedly, I can see why it's a foul.
Yeah.
But I feel like goals like that have been given before this season.
Yeah.
So, it was on a knife's edge, and I feel like Arsenal could have probably done more at home.
Yeah.
The onus was on them. They were at home.
Yes.
So, I mean, I take the point. I'm happy. But, that was just my thoughts on the game.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. That has been Mixing with the DJs review of Game Week 9. We'll be back later this week for a preview of Matchday 10. Once again, thanks for joining me, Dill. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Do Arsenal have an injury crisis? What are they going to do now that Gabriel and Saliba are both missing? And how much longer does Ten Hag have? We have to put that in every week.
We do. Yeah. We have to have a little countdown bar. The days till Ten Hag is set or something.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for joining.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.